Those in favor? Approved. And confirmation of the minutes of September 13th, 2018. Bob, thank you. Call for the question, those in favor? Approved. And down to reports, pages 5 to 20, Supervisor of Agriculture Services, Gary.
All right, if we turn ourselves over to page 5, I'll go through my report, and feel free to stop me anytime and ask questions. So, just getting right into her, the ASB grant. So our current ASB grant is coming to an end in 2019, so we're going to have to apply for a new one. That process will start this year. They've already done some consultation, and they've done some ag field and surveys, and there was also a meeting for ASB members, and our Lethbridge County guys attended on February 6th, and maybe Steve, if you can give a little report on that.
Yes, Tori and I both attended, and it was just kind of a roundtable discussion, just kind of groups, just kind of talking about minor tweaks within the ASB. One thing was just kind of telling our story out to the public of what the ASB program does do. One about the resolution process, and just a way of kind of streamlining that, of how to get the resolutions to the next stage to government, to get the government to make the changes, or to help support the government in making the changes. And about the key contact program, it's good that they're always at our meetings, but there is more than just, like, we always get the ag key contact with Cody Metherall. If kind of the idea, if you could rotate through some of the crop and cattle and the other programs that you have, it would be kind of useful. So that was kind of the main discussions that we had.
It's good. So I've also attached an information page from Alberta Agriculture on the impacts of ag service boards, and I just put that in there for information. I mean, you guys have been around and know the things we do, so we don't need to go through that one. Moving on, mowing, approximately 4,300 miles of gravel road, hardtop mowed last year. This was a more regular year to me. In the past, we've had drought and rain and all kinds of conditions. Last year in the spring, of course, we had lots of moisture. First round, lots of grass to cut. Second round, not so much grass to cut, but then we were hit with a little bit of snow in October, so that slowed us for a couple weeks. We didn't go out there when there was a high fire risk. We're pretty good at identifying when we shouldn't be out there and hitting rocks. We've been lucky so far. We haven't created a fire where lots of other MDs have. So, and we used both the triple gang and the disc mower. That disc mower is a fire starter, so we're very careful. We cherry pick the days we send it out there, because you can do a lot of miles with that thing, and it's a very economical machine to run. So. Hamlets and subdivisions, we mowed them twice and touched up in the fall as well. When the roadside mowers made it through for the last time, the gravel road crew. We also do a lot of weed control mowing on the areas that were shoulder pulled from the year before that can't handle a spray. So basically that's 8 to 10 months we think. So if we seed something in the fall, we're not going to spray that until July or August, somewhere in there. And if we do a spring seed, we try not to spray that at all until the following year. So that's how we do things there. Weed control most of the spraying in 2018, that should read, was done in divisions 4 and 5. Also spot through spraying throughout the county, and like I say, we sprayed those areas where the shoulder posts were. 29 bed and shore, we have a guy who goes down to the river bottoms, and he encourages the folks down there to spray their knapweed or leafy spurge spots. He also takes care of the portion we're responsible for, and that's the bed and shore. A lot of that work done now is hand pulling, so we try to get there early when conditions aren't dry and still pull some of those weeds. And we also had some biocontrol release sites, and that's effective on some of those areas you can't spray in the trees and stuff like that. We'll be doing some more biocontrol. intend to do 5 sites this year, 4 for leafy spurge and 1 for knapweeds. Road top vegetation truck, it was busy. We do approximately 400 miles of road top, so that's 200 miles of actual road top, and that's pretty consistent on what we've done in the last 10 or 15 years. It's always right around that mark. And some of the chemicals we're using are showing actually great results. We're using, as I mentioned last year, a barrier product, and it has worked incredibly out in the Sundial area where we've had kochia growing on top of the road. It's expensive, but we only have to hit it once, so it's got some savings there.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Gary, on the biocontrol, can you, do you do that on roadside?
No, not for the stuff, we're putting it on leafy spurge sites mostly, and you don't find it in the roadside. So if we find a site on the roadside with leafy spurge, we just go use a chemical that we can take care of it in most cases.
So you can't, you shouldn't mow if you used biocontrol, right?
If you're down in the river valley, there's, you know, you should, no, but what's happening now is that they're using sheep or goats to graze as well in some counties, and that's worked well with biocontrol, because what happens is the agent's kind of attached to the sheep, and the sheep move on, and then they drop the bioagent somewhere else. So that has worked effectively. We had a presentation at our in-service training, and it was on the Waldron Ranch. I think you guys are quite familiar up in the foothills there. They did it, and it worked incredibly well, but you have to have a full-time shepherd, and that is more work than spraying. So where we like the biocontrol is where people don't want to spray and also close to the river. So otherwise, we would recommend that. I mean, if you can take care of it with herbicide, you do that.
Thank you.
Yeah, like I say, so we did about 400 miles of road top, and then 93 weed inspector consultations last year. So that's Kevin Brostick, very busy. We had 3 weed notices last year. Most of our weed notices are in the hamlets, industrial sites. Last year, with the farmers, they have weed problems as well, but we deal with them, and we try to do a positive approach where we encourage them to take some action. It's when we've consistently asked them to do something where you'll see a weed notice for those. Most guys will help us out. There's the odd guy that over the years that we've had to give a weed notice.
Gary, is 93 a high number for inspection or consultations?
We're hitting a lot of places. I would say, Kevin, how does that for other years?
It's probably a little lower than, say, last year, but it's right in that area.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, go ahead, Bob.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Like, if people don't comply, does the county go in and do it and charge them, or what?
What we would do in the past, we have done a little bit of that, so you write a weed notice, and then if we have to take care of it, we bill them, and that bill is allowed to go onto their tax roll if they don't pay. And that's the same for soil erosion notice. If we give a soil erosion notice and they don't pay, we put it on. We try not to use the heavy-handed approach, but sometimes it's necessary. I mean, we're one of the only places to give a soil erosion notice in the province. Probably in the last 20 years, there hasn't been a lot. You work with the farmers. Sometimes they don't want to comply. It is necessary, and that is not a fun part of our job. I mean, the last soil erosion notice, the one that we give, we had to have an RCPS for it. And some of these consultations regarding weeds, they're not fun either. People do not like being told how to farm. And we understand that, but we also have a job to do. Carrying on to pest control, grasshopper survey, numbers are rising slightly in 2018. That'll come with the dry conditions. I looked at the report. They don't look like they're going to be too bad in Lethbridge County this year. In other parts of the province, there may be some grasshopper outbreaks. With that said, grasshoppers can come upon us very quickly. So, Bertha armyworm was also carried out, and numbers are rising slightly there as well. Bacterial ring rot of potatoes, we inspected 10 fields last year, no suspect fields were found. That's a difficult survey to do. You're wearing the booties, you're out in irrigated fields with mosquitoes, and you're trying to tromp through potatoes. It takes a lot of time.
Morris, go
Yeah,
ahead.
thank you, Chairman. How come the county is involved with checking in potatoes for ring rot? Because, you know, that's a real big concern of the potato grower. And I would think, you know, like if he has an infestation in his potato field, you know, it's pretty alarming for him and he'll act on it. Because, you know, if they have it, it's devastating for them. So you would think they'd be on top of that all the time. So why is the county involved in that?
Yeah, the reason we're involved, it's a declared pest in the province on the Pest Act.
Oh, that's
So
what it
the
is.
Potato Association asks us to do this, and we do it because in case you're gonna have a dishonest farmer that doesn't want their name out there with a pest. So if we find it, we have no, nothing to hide. We're gonna make sure something is done about it, whereas farmer may try to hide it or plow under that field. Obviously not in their best interest, but it could happen. So we're a third party.
Okay, yeah.
And you're right, they know what's out in their field. All those potato growers have agronomists that are working with them. I mean, they know a lot more than we do, let's put it that way. They're heavily trained.
But it's kind of, yeah, pushed by the province then, that's right.
Yeah,
That's-
yeah, and that's only a southern Alberta thing, really. I mean, the potatoes are all down here. There's some seed potatoes in the central part of the province, but. All right, moving on. We also did the club root and black leg fields. We did 10 fields, no suspects found. We've got our policy coming up in this meeting regarding club root. We'll spend some time there talking about that. Last year, 2,627 bottles of strychnine were sold. That is a significant drop from 2017 when we sold 4,200 bottles. We're selling strychnine now. It has been quite slow. So I've made a number of phone calls to some of the larger producers and told them, strychnine likely going off the market this year. If you want to control the rest of the ones you got, you should come in and do it, and they have. So other parts of the province, I talked to the fieldmen from Warner County, Cardston County, they're still selling a lot. Cardston County has a lot of grassland, and there are a couple hundred cases sold already, I think. So. As well, we had a private trapper come in for a couple weeks. We do this as part of a consortium of the 5 ag service ports in the south region, and we do this for rabies identification. If rabies were to come in, we focus on the south end of the county because we believe that if rabies were ever to enter our county, it's going to come from south U.S. border. They've had infestations in the past. So last year the fellow caught 21 skunks. That's a big increase from the productivity we've had on skunks caught by previous trappers. So we're happy with that. And then the skunks their heads are removed after they're euthanized, and all heads are sent to the research station, the ADRI, and all of them are tested for rabies. So that's quite a program. We do our part with 2 weeks. There are other counties that do more. They're closer to the U.S. border. So. Moving on to soil erosion, in the fall of 2018, we did see a few days of weather that was conducive to soil erosion. We talked to a couple of farmers, and nothing had to be done. The wind stopped and the snow came. So we're very concerned right now with the soil erosion. A couple of weeks ago, you know how windy it was, like it was last Saturday. Land was moving. When everybody's land moves, it's not a problem because there's nothing that can be done. It's when you have an individual landowner, when it's a moderate wind, middle of the road wind, and his land is moving, those are the guys we go talk to. We're not talking to everybody on those windy days. We hide in our basement, we don't want to see it either, so. And we are concerned with the dry moisture now going forward into seeding. This is the time when we see a lot of soil erosion. And most guys are quick to act. They're putting manure down, or they're doing what they have to do to stop it. So we appreciate the work the farmers do in that area. Roadside seating, this is just a little note on my report, but this is one of the larger jobs over the past few years. The Public Works has done an incredible amount of work, shoulder pulling and fixing all the roads up, so we have to come behind them and pick all the rocks with them. They helped last year, and that's a lot of work putting down the seed. We order a lot of seed every year.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Do you use that spray, or do you just seed it with a drill yet?
We use a hydro seeder, so it works very good. We're, compared to how we used to do it, they said, when I first started, they said, seed it with a spreader, harrow it in, disc it lightly, don't go back and look at it for 3 years, because that's how long it will take to grow in. With this stuff, you get, you get that with the harrows, the lines, right? And then the weeds come in between the lines. With the hydro seeder, it's broadcast evenly, and then it comes up more consistent, and you don't get as many weeds. And the hydro seed is grown on the surface, whereas you were putting it into the soil a bit before, so the grass emerges first, and it doesn't give the weeds as much as a chance. So we like what it's done. So.
Go ahead, Morris.
Yeah, do you guys do custom work with hydro seeding?
We can, yeah, we can, we will. The thing with hydro seeding, it's a very costly thing to do. I mean, the price per acre is quite high. We like it because we don't have to road a tractor around as much as we used to. And it was 2 tractors before, now there's 1 tractor disking and harrowing. So from our standpoint, it's reasonable, we're getting a better catch. Costs are about the same, maybe a little bit more. But I mean, if a farmer were wanting to do it or something, I mean, I could do a quote, but just be aware it's not cheap to do.
Is it a limited amount of acres you would want to accept?
It depends on the
And the
road.
reason I say, I need to do a little bit of seeding in the equipment yard. That grass has been disappearing, and I would like to touch it up, and I did it twice now with a brilliant seed. It's not working.
Yeah. Yeah, we could work out a price for sure, and a lot of times we can catch some, if a farmer needs a small area as we go by, we're all over the county on those roads, so yeah, we can work out a price there.
Thank you.
And one thing to note that you may be interested with regarding our seeding program, we added annual rye to our grass mix last year, and the idea there was these new roads that were constructed, you couldn't see the edge of the road, so annual rye is the first to pop up. So, that was the intent. I don't know how well it works. It did pop up last year when we seeded it, but it's quick to die off in the drought, so a lot of it didn't make it. And as far as identifying the edge of the road, the weeds come too, so the weeds are showing you where the edge of the road is too, so. And then also the crews staked the roads as well a little bit last year. Moving on, equipment rentals. 19 individuals rented the Brilliant drills. It seems like the number I always put in is 19. It's actually the number, I count them up. It's not just going forward with the report. There was 19 again last year. And we have the newer models from a few years ago, and guys are liking them. We're not having to constantly go fix them, so it's great. And Kevin, on the way here, had a couple calls with Brilliant drills. They're very busy in the spring and then also busy in the fall. Skunk and magpie traps, usage is very steady throughout the year. Dwayne does his newsletter. We put in skunk traps or magpie traps, and then the phones start ringing. So that's good. We purchased a couple new magpie traps. You guys are probably familiar with the big round ones we use. We've seen a deal on the internet where there's a trap that works quite well, so we bought a couple of them. We've been trying them this year. They don't work all that well, so the old big ones are better. The reason we wanted to try these smaller ones is because you need a truck to come and get the magpie trap and tie it down, and it's quite large. These will fit in the back seat or trunk of the car, so we'll keep working with them, see if we can get them working better. Plastic baler, it hasn't seen a lot of use. There has been nowhere for the plastic to go. We also have the white paper included in my report. it basically describes that they want to do a program, there's money for a program province-wide for plastic. We're to wait and see with the election, of course, everything's went quiet on anything from the government, so. It has gone out a couple times this spring, which it hasn't moved a lot in the past, and I think it's just guys wanna clean up and not have a mess laying around. So it's not that they're recycling, they're just coiling it up and putting it in the corner somewhere, hopefully not burying it or burning it. So. Also, parks, shop maintenance, slowed by drought last year, and so there wasn't as much work going into the fall.
Lauren, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sorry. Gary, I think too, a lot of the bags are still in the fields unemptied, so you might see a little bit more of a rush if there's ever a bigger move by grade.
That is a good point, and you know, unfortunately, with crops not being as good as they have been, there's less need for bags too in some cases. Also, we mowed the cemeteries twice. A lot of times, when we're going to the cemeteries for the second round, there's not a lot of grass to mow. They're dry land cemeteries, and I'm gonna have a little parks report, PowerPoint, when we go over the parks and trails inspections, and we'll show you what parks we're responsible for in the cemeteries as well.
Klaus?
Just back to the plastic bags, the grain bags. The grain bags, are they being recycled? Is that possible, or are they too dirty to be recycled?
What they want is less than 10% contamination. They're not being recycled from our part of the world, I don't think, because it's too costly to get the bags to where they need to be. Closest place was up near Strathmore, at the Hutterick Colony that was doing some work with them. There's also a guy out of Noble, me and Kevin took a couple bags over to this fella. He was gonna make those parking curbs out of it. Never called us back on it. I don't think he was successful. The bags that we took him were the best we could find at the Iron Springs transfer station, but they're dirty. And the fella come by our Egg Expo booth, and they're still interested in doing something. They've moved their production from the county into the village of Nobleford. So they're working some things.
Because I was talking to that guy at the Tiffin conference there, and it looks like he's having quite some success because he's expanding all the time with what he's doing there. So I'm kind of surprised to hear that he's moved into the town instead of that it's been moved out of the county.
Yeah, we visited his site in the county, me and Kevin, a few years ago, and he's doing a lot of recycling with, you know, the trailers that go around for the counties. Like, he's taking in product from, you know, the Calgary area all the way down to the border. And that's what he's, you know, Tide containers and that kind of plastic. Not so much working on the ag plastics, but he just sees another market as something he can try if he can perfect it. He has a lot of machinery. He's collected all the old recycling machinery from around North America because it hasn't worked out for people. So he's got these presses where how they do it is it's pressed into a mold and it melts as it goes from the pressure. It's not heated up or anything like that. Quite an interesting process, and you know, as plastic burns, it's quite a smell too in that facility. But he's making a go of it, that's for sure. Any other questions on that one? Moving on, farm family, our BMO farm family is the Dave Bishop family, and they farm northwest of Barrens. And this is a very good nomination. When I phoned Dave up, he was surprised and shocked by the nomination. I think he's about brought tears to his eyes, quite pleased. I didn't have to explain the nomination to Dave. He spends a lot of time on some of the ag producer committees, and he spends time at the Calgary Stampede, so he knew what this was all about, and he was very thankful. I also met Dave's son. He come to one of the pesticide courses that we had, and a nice fellow there too, so that farm family tradition carrying on with the Bishop family out there. Farm safety, we give the annual $5,000 donation to the Farm Safety Center. It's part of our Ag Service Board budget. Every year they send me a letter, I've attached that. The ask is for $350 per student, which would have come to $6,800 in that range. We continue to give them the 5,000. I've included that for information. In the past, they've showed me contributions from all over the province. We are one of the larger contributors anyways, and I don't think anybody's really given their recommended per student amount. So I think we're good with the $5,000 unless you guys instruct me at budget time to increase that. And they did catch quite a few of the schools. There's a breakdown in there of which schools they went to, so. Some of our other activity, South Region Authorized Assistant Pesticide course was hosted in our Lethbridge office. We're gonna do that again this year as part of the South Region. And we've been using the Old Man Regional Services Commission building. They rent their space to us. It's a little more better than here. We can take on more students. And we've also been holding some of our regional meetings for conference. We host a lot here in Lethbridge just because we're central. People like coming to Lethbridge, and we don't mind setting it up, part of our job. So we did host a farmer pesticide certificate course. That was in February. We held that with Bill Hammond in the County of Warner. So what we do is we set it up. We get everybody. We promote it to the farmers. Bill teaches the course. There's also a component on grain fumigation. Nobody does grain fumigation in municipalities. The County of Warner used to. So they have a fellow that teaches it, and he has practical experience. So we bring him in to teach that 1 hour portion. And Steve was there. He's a pretty good resource, Jeff, from the County of Warners. And then carrying on, numerous meetings were held to plan our annual in-service training. That's training we go to each year, somewhere in the province, hosted by, spread around through each region, just like the conference is. We hosted ours in Calgary last year. It's mandatory training for anybody that's a member of the AAAF. So I go, Dwayne goes, and now Derek goes as well. So we have to be active members. Derek's part of a committee, part of several committees, certified ag fieldman in the province. We are involved with the associations, and we like doing that. We also, this year was the South Region's turn for the conference. So we put all that together. Everybody separates onto a separate committee and helps out. So you guys all attended up in Calgary at the Hyatt, and we had a lot of positive feedback from not only where we held the event, also to the speakers, facilities. Everything was quite well. The banquet, some of you have been involved with banquets in the past. Mostly what happens, you eat, get your awards, and you leave. Entertainment's usually not good. The entertainment this year was really good and a lot of fun. So people stuck around, and you get to know each other from all across the province, and that's part of it as well. So, and that pretty well covers my report. One more thing we did do was the Ag Expo just a short while back, and it was myself, Derek, and Dwayne, who attended this year, took turns. We really enjoy going there. There's no negativity, and if some of you stop by our booth, you can see there's a lot of activity around the Lethbridge County booth. We're not just like the normal government where they avoid and walk away. Nobody's coming up and giving us negative. We invited Phil Merrill. He's the pest specialist, so he'll come in for an hour or two. Phil knows a lot of people from the Lethbridge region and the province, so they ask questions on gopher control and all the things that Phil's involved with. And then Mike Harding, also a pest specialist, he comes in and he sits with us. And Mike is from Lethbridge originally. He's a research scientist who works at Brooks now. So people are given the opportunity. We promoted it on social media if they wanted to come. People did come. You guys seen it. The booth's a pretty happy place. There's nobody yelling at us there. So. And that is my report. I'll take on any more questions if you wish.
Go ahead, Bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to, thank you guys for like the Ag Service Board, what happened in Calgary, the Hyatt there. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was very worthwhile. Great speakers you had there and everything like that.
Well, thank you. And we were very concerned with going to downtown Calgary. It hadn't been there for over 25 years. And the costs of downtown Calgary are considerably higher than Medicine Hat or Lethbridge. But everybody can fly into Calgary. It was difficult for people you know, we went to Grand Prairie, you know, it's harder to get there, but, no, we were happy with the event. The costs were a little higher, and we were very concerned about the budget, and it worked out well. We made money, we're supposed to make a certain percentage, we made that, and a little more, we pretty well hit the mark, so. And the cost was about $50 more than regular. So the cost savings of all those MDs flying into Calgary instead of other places, I mean, they saved it there, so.
Yeah, all the planning you guys did and even the work at the event too, you know, you can see that you guys were busy, so it was very much appreciated, the work you guys did.
Thanks, it was good.
More questions, comments at all? The motion to approve for Martin?
Move the approval of supervisors of agricultural services for
Thank you. More questions? Call for the question. Those in favor? Carried. And pages 21, 22, the rural extension specialist, Dwayne?
Good morning, everybody. Whoops. Well, I'm gonna start off from where we left off in the last Executive Board meeting. So I'll just, if you don't mind, I'll just read verbatim through my report and ask any questions you may have, okay? So, the county hosted a Sustainable Ag Tour in September 2018. I was pleased with the attendance. The tour group's enthusiasm was really great there. There's a bunch of keeners there, and just some of the history. We've been going for 11 years now, that tour, and I feel it's getting better every year, but we're starting to get a little stale. I think last year was fortunate enough to get a contact for the sugar beets through Councillor Benson there, and for his son-in-law, and that worked out really nice. It was a good stop there, the sugar beets. As you guys know, you were all there. Let's see. So, if there's any questions, any kind of ideas for future tours, please just get a hold of me, and if you've got some kind of idea or something that you want to show in your respective division, by all means get a hold of me, and I'd be happy to include it if it's possible, okay? So, I'm establishing a nutrient management working group with Lethbridge College, Alberta Agriculture and Forestry, also Ag Canada. I don't have them written down in there, but Ag Canada is involved as well. Warner, Carson, Pincher Creek, Willow Creek, and Newell counties as well. And then we're just setting up an annual nutrient management workshop that would be hosted at the various counties depending on the year that we're doing, right? So it's kind of, I set that up a couple of years ago with my program, and it turned out to work. It worked really well. And in working with a couple of the guys with Alberta Agriculture, I should say, they thought it would be nice to extend it to the other municipalities and see if we could get them involved. And it sounds like they're interested. We're actually going to have a meeting this month on the 23rd from 10 till 12 o'clock. So we've got all the key players involved, and it'll be a good event for sure. As an Old Man Watershed Council World Team member, I've been reviewing Watershed Legacy Program funding applications throughout this month. This month being, we did this report in March, so it was March and February kind of thing, right? So I've attended one meeting since the fall for that. This is my second term as an OWC counselor. The council is very diverse, and the council is very diverse, and everyone is striving to represent their respective industries. The council meet once a month to address watershed subjects and help set up work plans for the staff. If you guys are familiar with the group, sometimes it seems like there's one step forward and 3 steps back sometimes, but I decided to stay with it and try and weather the storm and hope this thing come around is what I'm trying to do. So I've been learning a lot. Yes, Doug.
Mark, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So at the last Mayors and Reeves meeting, there was some concern expressed by a couple of municipalities over the role of the Old Man Watershed Council and kind of their political aspirations and such. And I believe you've lost 3 municipalities who are contributing funding towards it. And I'm not sure if you're going to lose a few more.
There was an article that you guys might be aware of that came out February 13th in the Herald that basically admonished irrigation farmers and said the city is the best thing since sliced bread. I'm not gonna get into it too much. We're addressing that next week and then the following week, but yeah, we, again, the one step forward, 3 steps back. I don't know what it is. I've been involved with these guys since 2006, and for some reason or other, whether it's the personalities or what have you, man, we seem to be doing a lot of covering our butts sometimes, right? You know, it's quite a thing. The last one that came up was Doug Kopp from over across the street there, and our CAO, Shannon Frank. They're in the paper on, like I said, February 13th, talking about the great things the city has done and the horrible things that the irrigation companies have done. We're not efficient, and so on and so forth. So I addressed that to them, and we're going to be dealing with that with irrigation groups, and so Alan Harold and SMRID, and I'll be there too as well, you know, letting them know my displeasure with that comment. When they come back to me, they said they were misquoted. So I don't know about that. I don't know if you saw that article in there anyway. It was pretty bad for us, right? But for agriculture, right? So I haven't went so far as to say Doug should be removed from the chair, but I feel that it's time for him to really pay attention to what he's saying. And of course, they use the old I was misquoted kind of thing, right? And it happens, I know. I worked at the research station for a long time, and we were misquoted from Rick Swire for years. In regards to the municipalities meeting, I don't know. I don't know which ones are there and which ones aren't. I was not able to attend our last meeting in February, it was, or March, February. So I'm not sure where that stands. And that's a good question to ask Shannon for sure.
Okay, their concern was also on the headwaters. A couple of municipalities up there felt they were unjustly treated. So they have decided not to fund it. A couple of them are still coming to the meeting, but not supplying any funding. So I don't know whether that's right or wrong.
Yeah.
But that's up to you guys, I guess, as an internal board. But just be aware that there's quite a bit of talk. We probably talked for almost an hour on that subject over there, which is very unusual.
It's, to be honest, it's a frustration, right? It is, yeah. But I don't want to quit it unless I'm advised to. But I feel that my input can help even the field a little bit, is what I feel, right? So, unless you guys feel differently, of course, right? So that's up to you folks, of course.
Yeah, you're aware of it, so.
Honestly, it is a very big frustration. Gary and I have monthly talks on it. Whatever hair I have left, I keep pulling on it. I don't understand it. I don't get the demographic and why they fight like that. I don't get it. So, and the political climate, it's very obvious to see that they're saddled up with the NDP. That Shannon Phillips is involved in there quite heavily, and I don't believe that is the way it should be, but I'm one voice amongst 12 people there. So.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So again, also I am very active with the Environmental Farm Plan Company. I'm an EFP, Environmental Farm Plan representative for the Association of Alberta Agriculture Fieldmen. I report to the AAAF Executive Committee on new information and report problems back to the EFP staff. Also, I'm an Environmental Farm Plan Nutrient Management Committee member, and the committee has been working on improving nutrient management chapters in the book. We are using material from the 4Rs framework to come in line with the international customers. 4R nutrient stewardship, as you guys, I'm sure you know, you farmers, provides a framework to achieve cropping system goals such as increased production, increased farmer profitability, enhanced environmental protection, and improved sustainability. So focusing on the right fertilizer source at the right rate, at the right time, in the right places, you farmers know, right? Bethlehem County is still a delivery agent for the Environmental Farm Plan. We're teaching an EFP program and promoting the EFP at every opportunity. It has had a lot of positive outcomes. I'm currently working with 15 producers, talking with producers and educating them on sustainable practices. Helps me understand what their goals are and where their barriers to practice change are. Once I have approved a workbook, I assist by helping them fill out the applicable applications for funding, whether it's on the CAP program or the FEED program. And not everybody is looking for funding after that, but normally they are, and I help them with that kind of funding as well. So the manure management update was a great success this year. That was back in January. I believe there were almost more producers than crop consultants in attendance, and there was a larger attendance in overall too, so. We've had a problem with having more consultants than farmers at those things. It just seems to be, that's the material that the consultants are looking for from Alberta agriculture, and a lot of farmers just don't, they don't need to hear too much about manure nutrients and stuff, I guess. The different conference went over well, but I wasn't able to attend. I was actually in emergency the night before that, so I couldn't make it. I've gone over our surveys, and it seems like we had another informative event. For the $1,000 sponsorship that we provide, we received recognition at the event as well as 6 attendance seats, right, or tickets, right? So they changed that. This is the first year that they've done that, and I think that it helps us get a little more bang for our buck, per se, right? So I attended the soil science workshop in Calgary. It was a great event which focused on sustainability. It is interesting to note that many of the research speakers believe that feedlots are not sustainable and they will not be around in years to come. So that seems to be a theme. It's reoccurring all over the place. They don't believe that it's sustainable out there. I wanted to put that in my newsletter. Are you sustainable? But I figured I'd get too many calls. So. We set up our booth at, like Gary mentioned, we set up the booth at Ag Expo. Thanks, Lauren, for getting that going many years ago, because like we said, that was a great event to get to. I had many producers stopping to chat about environmental farm plans and cap funding. I believe that the attendees understand that this is not a forum for negativity. All my interactions were very positive, so it's a great event to be there, right? It's put ourselves out front and center. It's great. That's what we like to do as far as I'm concerned. Anyways, that's my report, and if there's any questions, please.
Go ahead, Bob.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, on the environmental farm plan, has the province decided on the length that it's valid? Because,
Yes.
because they were talking about
We have to
5
renew it every 10 years now. You folks will have to renew every 10 years, okay? Now, expect it coming really soon, within 5 years, that you'll have to renew every 5 years, because that's the direction we're going, okay? So, and just to line up with international markets and stuff like that, right? So, that's the word.
Go ahead.
I got one more on the nutrient management working group. That working group, is that set up like with agrologists and everything like that? Are they involved in that one?
We have Adriana Navarro-Boro from the college. She'll be there. She's a soil scientist. I have Rob Dunn. I don't know if you're familiar with him, another soil scientist type person, right? Myself, and that should be all we need, but I'm just being facetious. We've got Ag Canada, Dr. Frank Larney. He's probably one of the most, well, he's the one that studies composting the most out of anybody in Western Canada, right? So we have his perspective there as well. And then Trevor Wallace from Alberta Agriculture and Forestry, and Linda Medina. So they're all involved with the nutrients. We call Trevor right now, he's the nutrient management specialist for the province right now, right? So
The question that I asked that is because a lot of private companies are doing this kind of work too.
They are.
So are you guys going over and above, or are you involving these in there, or is it just
what we've done
spreading
there,
information?
Mr. Chair, what we've done there is we are trying to educate the consultants that are doing the educating out there. That's what we're trying to do. Our focus group are those consultants, because they need to have more information on microbial activity for manures and stuff like that. They need to have that information, is what we discovered. Now, we want producers coming too. We want applicators coming as well, right? That's what we're gonna focus on, is the manure applicators this year is one place I wanna focus a lot. But yeah, so from my perspective, we're teaching the people that are teaching those things right now, right? So that was my goal to start with.
Lauren, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So Gary, going back to
Dwayne.
environment, or Dwayne, sorry.
That's okay.
Going back to environmental farm plan.
People call me my older brother's name, and I correct him right.
Is it mandatory if you're in, you stay in? Like, there's a lot of people who aren't in the environmental farm plan, right?
Right.
So they don't currently need to be in it.
No,
They
you're
should
right.
be, but they're not.
Right.
Required to.
Right.
So if you're in it, you're required to automatically renew every 10 years, and now maybe every 5 years in
Yeah.
the future. So is that a requirement? How does that work?
Do you know, really, Lauren, what it does is it positions them for the certain type of funding that's available through the CAP program, right? So the funding program that would be I guess, associated with the environmental farm plan is called the environmental stream funding for producers. And that, without the environmental farm plan, they cannot get that funding. So that's really the treat for them, I guess, right? So they finish it off, they can apply for funding. Now, that's the only program out of all that funding program that you need an environmental farm plan for. And anybody that has one and it's expired or anything, I don't chase them down or anything like that because I don't have that information or anything. But there's no onus on them to get it. There's nothing there. There's nobody chasing them down or anything. But if they want the future funding, they have to have that type of thing. And what I found is that most people that have, not most, just about everyone that has done an environmental farm plan that I've talked to about renewing it, they're really happy to do it. It's online now, so it's a much easier tool to deal with. They don't have to walk around with 30 of those 3-inch binders, which is nice, but it's just very intuitive for them to do online now, right? And so as soon as they ask for me to be a technical assistant, I say yes, and then I will go through, as they're working through it, I go through and help them because we can communicate via emails and stuff like that to actually see where they are and stuff. So it's not required to have it. No. Now, if you're a potato grower, you have to have it. Yes, the potato growers have their own form of environmental farm plan that we worked on 3 years ago for them.
Okay, thanks, Wayne. Got the right name this time.
Yeah. And I think that it's also coming that far that with borrowing substantial amounts of money that the financial institutes are requesting that you also do the environmental farm plan.
I found that actually, yes.
And there's more because, well, like you probably know the dairy industry and stuff with the chickens and they all have the environmental farm.
I've come across that. I have come across that where banks and insurance companies are looking for you to have the environmental farm plan done. Well, that's a great tool. That's great for me. I think that's awesome. But, I'm sure the farmer's going, oh, goodness sakes, right? But anyway, it's great to have that. I like to see them requesting that because then you know that those guys have really put some thought into their operation. They know where the we'll just say contaminants could be or something like that, and they know what best practices that they really can do if they have the funding to be able to alleviate that or mitigate that practice, right? So, yeah.
Any more questions for Dwayne? If not, thank you for your report, your update. And just looking for a motion for information on rural extension specialist report.
Ken, how you doing?
Good.
On the hot seat right here, yeah, George.
Thank you, Ken.
Hi. How you doing?
Call for the question, those in favor? Carried. And just moving down to E1, appointment with Ken Coles, Farming Smarter, update. Morning, Ken.
Good
Welcome.
morning, thank you. How's everybody?
Good.
Excellent.
We should just go around the table and introduce ourselves and
Sure.
start with Dan here.
Ann Mitchell, I'm the CAO for Lancaster County.
I'm Klaus Vanderveen, I'm a counselor.
Paul Horvath, counselor. Or Zisha.
Lauren, you get through the beef.
Steve Campbell, counselor, Upland Oakford area.
Excellent. Well, I'm Ken Cole, General Manager, Farming Smarter, and I've got Shelley Barkley as our office manager. And she's brought a bunch of packages for anybody who'd like one. It's just sort of some information like our annual report and a couple of magazines. We have the Farming Smarter magazine. You guys mind if I stand?
Whatever comes.
Why? Let me be free. So thanks for having me. What we've been doing with Farming Smarter is going around to all of the counties and in our riding. So basically South of Highway 1 is our official objects, although we do work collaboratively across the province and across Western Canada. So the objective for us is simply to let you know what we're up to as an organization that works within this county, and give you a bit of an idea of some of the new projects that we're working on and what's new with us. So I hope that we can have a little conversation about how we might partner more with this county in particular. So as I mentioned before, we are a nonprofit organization. We're the product of two pre-existing organizations that have run in Southern Alberta for many, many years. Since the early 90s, they were both started. One was Southern Applied Research Association that I work for, called SARA, and another was Southern Alberta Conservation Association. So I know you're already confused. So we got rid of those terrible acronyms of people, and we took the name of our magazine. The magazine was actually called Farming Smarter. I said, that was a fantastic name. So in 2012, we officially amalgamated the two organizations and took the name Farming Smarter. That was back when we were first buying websites, so we bought our website. In about 4 years ago, we decided to apply for our charitable status as well as an educational institution. And we were successful in receiving that. We thought it would be a great tool to help support the organization financially. To date, we haven't been successful in using it, but we're really hoping that it might be a great tool for us moving forward. I mentioned before that we're regionally focused, so Southern Alberta is our area. We've got 14 counties in our object, so there are other organizations across the province, actually 12 of them, and they've been loosely affiliated, and that's sort of been changing. I'm currently working with at least 6 or 7 of them right now. Some of them have varying relationships with their municipalities. So Oyen, for example, Cara is one, and they work with the special areas and actually have a pretty tight relationship there with both funding and with collaboration to sort of meet the needs in their areas. We're a policy governed organization. Our board of directors is 9 people now, maybe 10. And used to be predominantly producers. We've now have a bylaw where at least half of them need to be producers, but wanted to diversify the skill set of the board. So now we've got, Ben Van Dyke is a farm real estate guy. We've now got a first accountant on board, and we've got consulting agronomists and such. So we're just trying to create a board that brings a lot of different perspectives to the table. So as such, I'm the one staff they deal with, and then I have a fleet of excellent individuals that help us do the work that we do. So while we talk about members, we've built up this mailing list or this client list of over 1,300 people, and it's always been extension focused. But we haven't really done a great job of articulating what that relationship is. So what does it mean to be a farmer, and what is a client? And I'll talk about that moving forward. Some of the main programs that we work on is innovation focused. So we call the program Growing New Ideas, and we're trying to push the envelope in crop production. So practical, adaptive type research. So research is a very ambiguous term. We do work with the very basic type research that's going on, but what we're focused on is what is going to help a farmer today or in the next couple of years. What are the immediate needs, and how do you help people adopt those new innovations? So that's really what we're in the business of doing, is on-farm innovation. And through that program that we've called Growing New Ideas, the extension is an important tool for us. An extension, the younger folks have never heard the term extension, but it used to be really rich in agriculture and has a long history. But it is that interaction with the farmers and extending the information from universities and such. For us, we've sort of reinvented what extension means. So it used to be you'd have a problem, you'd give a scientist an idea, go away for 3 years or 4 years and come back and tell us what you've learned. We try to actually talk about things we don't know. And a lot of times our most successful events at field schools, we're talking about issues that there hasn't been anything studied, but it engages people right from the onset. So that way, it's almost our needs assessment tool. That relationship, that social networking, when we have farmers and agronomists and a lot of great minds together, we bring all those ideas in one place and then sort of prioritize what are the opportunities that we have. So we'll put on an event and then we'll form a research project around that and then work together on it moving forward. We'd like to adapt that. So I think that's still a critical piece that drives the research that we do. Novel crops is about working on anything new and different, so things like hemp and brassica carinata and whatever new crop opportunities there are in southern Alberta. Hey Dwayne.
Yes.
Can I bother you for the water?
Yes, no problem.
Thanks. We do small plot research. Our facilities are just down from the research center. We're partnered with the Lethbridge College on 60 acres that they have there. We also rent a quarter section that's just directly east of the jail. So all those plots in there, that's us. And we have a second site out in Medicine Hat where we work with a local farmer. That way, we've actually worked quite closely with Cypress County and Jason Storchiak fielding out there to have a presence in a different area. And that's been a very good, fruitful, that's all right. And that's been a great way for us to expand our impact across the province. Collaboration, we work with universities, Saskatoon, Manitoba, Ag Canada, Alberta Ag, and Alberta Innovates here in Alberta. That's the research center in Vegreville. So we work with whoever we can that will bring us information into southern Alberta, and I think that's been a key part of why we've been successful is just we work with as many people as we possibly can. One of the newest programs that we have is about taking it out to the farm, using the precision ag tools that there are, and doing we call it the field tested program, because the scientists say at Ag Canada might come up with some great new things, but how does it work in the real world? And how do you collect science-based data other than the old-fashioned approach of just hoping that it works? And how do you make changes along that way? So we've got a business program or research program where we're trying to figure out the best way to move that forward. But in a sense, and I think that's something new and up and coming that I think will provide a lot of value to farmers. We work basically in crop agronomy. And feel free to jump in if you have any questions along the way. So our Growing Knowledge program is simply that. We want to get information out there. The digital hub of what we do is the website. Farming Smarter is the center point for everything that we do. And it's sort of the hub of information. Everything feeds into our website. All of our events, we videotape them, and then the videos go onto the website as well. We conduct a yearly field school that's sort of changed. It used to be one of the last surviving field schools in Western Canada for sure, and we've been changing it too. We're moving to one-day events where we have a lunch and try to keep things as concise as possible and as science-based as possible, removing any sales pitches. But we also have 3 other plot hops now. So basically we have 4 full-day field events where folks can come and learn. And we try to keep that diagnostic piece to it, so a person will actually still get to have some hands-on field-based training. We do the e-newsletter almost twice a month now to 1,300 subscribers. Big into the social media piece. And the magazine, which is our namesake, we do that twice a year in conjunction with Farm Business Communications. So they do the publishing. Currently it goes out to every rural address in southern Alberta in the Farmer Express magazine. But if anybody needs a direct mail, we'd be happy to put you on our list. And our conference used to alternate between Medicine Hat and Lethbridge. A couple of years ago, we decided to keep it in Lethbridge and we moved it to the exhibition ground. And with that conference, actually, this is probably one area that we might be interested in working together, is we'd like to grow that conference sort of like a mini Farm Tech. Farm Tech is the big event in Edmonton, but we find that there's so much going on in southern Alberta that we don't need to necessarily everybody move up to Edmonton. I think there's lots of ways to sort of grow that. So we'd like to see that, even to a 500 or 600 attendee type event, and then support the exhibition ground there too. So I mentioned the field tested program. What we're doing is using all the fancy technology that are on equipment now. So that's geo-reference data, yield mapping data, but also applying statistics. And I think that farmers are interested in seeing what happens on their own farm. And I think the reason for that, and it's a very good one, is that the variability that's out there in the real world is huge. And every farmer has a different cropping system, and they have a different field history. So for us to be able to apply techniques, there is no cookie cutter approach. I think every approach needs to be tailored to the farm. So what we're hoping to do is be that sort of coordinator of these trials, because I've been doing this for about 12, 13 years on the on-farm research piece, and it's a nightmare, to be honest with you. It's tough to handle. We're dealing with different farmers every year, and that'd be the same as me hiring a new research technician every year. So the data quality actually is pretty poor. Seed companies are going out and doing yield trials. I actually say that almost all the field scale research that's being done out there is poor at best. And we'd like to change that. And I think that's part of coming up with a business model that makes sense. So we're going to coordinate the trial design and the setup of the seeding, and you can program the seeders and the sprayers to do the work for you, and then we will collect the data. So throughout the season, we'll be out there doing field observations, whatever information is needed to do a really good trial, and then we'll take all of that information through the harvest techniques, the yield maps, and actually analyze it in a geospatial statistics approach that's different than most areas are doing, trying to take it beyond that whole pretty map piece and turn it into something that's usable and actionable knowledge for the farmer. So this is just an example of one of the trials and why the old approach of doing things sort of strip trials. On the left is what you would get if you took out a weigh wagon or a grain cart and just got a bulk data set. When we're doing the geospatial data, breaking it up into tiny little squares, if you will, it actually gives us a lot more information. So that's something that I don't think we've been doing a good job of with the new technology. So I mentioned we're sort of evolving as an organization, and we put together a survey this winter. And as much as everyone loves surveys, we were kind of pleased that we were able to get 216 respondents. And it was really an interesting approach. And it told us a lot about how people feel our services are and what they're needing and asking for moving forward. So the questions that we asked were descriptive, who are you, what do you do, what's the size of your farm, things like that. We also asked some funding questions because as we evolve as an organization, we have to change how our revenue structure is. Last year we were down to less than 10% government funded, so we're sort of reinventing ourselves to continue moving forward. Project based. So we also asked about the value and the impact. So what do people value in what we do, and what's the impact to the community? We asked about the needs and services that they're interested in, and we asked some interesting questions on, do you feel you're a member? And because we haven't defined that well, about half of our respondents said, yes, we're a member, and half said that they weren't. So now we've started to think, okay, so we've got clients and we've got members. And some of the informative questions were just like that. Did you know that we're a charity? Well, half of them didn't. So in asking the question, sometimes you actually give them information. So what we found was about a little less than half is producers. So the farm sizes are getting bigger, but we're still pretty pleased that at least half are farmers, but we've got other clients, and that's agronomists. Agronomists are people that work for farmers and consult them. So they're actually very impactful as far as getting new information and technology too. So we want to treat the agronomists as important because they'll work with 10 other farmers or 20 other farmers. And industry sales, a fair number of research people here in Lethbridge, there's a lot of researchers, and a small number of students. Usually they can't make, no, that's something different. So we do get more students to our events, but this was just who answered the survey. So the questions are what's important. The biggest answer was valuable unbiased research. And the unbiased piece, what does that mean? Well, we're not really sales motivated. We're trying to help the industry as a whole, but I think that's what people are after is that type of information. They want easy access to information was next. The networking piece actually came out quite high. In fact, as far as the tools, surprisingly, we think digital is king, and it kind of is, but they still want to get together. There's still a strong desire for field events, for conferences, where people can talk and get to know each other. So that networking piece is actually pretty valuable still too. And the lowest ones were reducing what they test on their farm. What areas should we work on? Soil and nutrients was top. cropping systems next, agronomy, equipment and technology, crop protection, and then novel crops and precision ag are actually the lowest. So to highlight some of the work that we've done in novel crops, this is hemp. This is one that we've been working on for about 6 or 7 years now. And with the change in regulations, there's a lot of excitement. It's been one of those industries like any novel crop. It kind of goes up and down based on demand. We get excited, we overproduce, the price goes down, and that's a very cyclical nature. And that's exactly what's happening with hemp. However, the change in regulations are actually opening up a lot of new opportunities. So you'll hear a lot about the CBD stuff, and that's cannabidiols, that's the pharmaceutical natures that you can extract from hemp. We've probably heard lots about the fiber opportunities. Currently, there's really not a market for fiber yet. We've been promised plants that we're going to start near Chin for many years, but it's been slow to develop. And the current driver is still the grain. It's all about the healthy grain right now, but with this crop, you have a sort of triple threat opportunity. And I'm actually still pretty excited about it really growing to be sort of our next major crop. That's just a shot of some of the fiber stuff that we grew there too. So we only see right now the shorter grain varieties out there, but as a fiber crop, it's incredible how tall it grows and how it can produce here under irrigation for sure. It does, it is a photosensitive crop, so as you move north, and if you have more daylight, it'll actually grow taller. So competitive advantage might end up being for fiber up north, but because of our irrigation, we can pretty much do anything here. Worked on dryland grain corn, so we've had big investments with companies like, Pear, that's another thing, is trying to keep track of all the companies and their mergers. But Old Monsanto and then Pioneer DuPont have invested in southern Alberta with their breeding plant facilities. And then what we thought was, well, this is great if we're going to have more corn. How do you get dryland grain corn integrated into our zero-tillage cropping system? So we did a 3-year project on that. And interestingly enough, corn, it did quite well. We were averaging between 90 to 120 bushels an acre of dryland grain corn. It's actually very drought tolerant. We're used to growing it under silage, but I think there's some opportunities. We looked at fertility and then we looked at crop sequencing. This is an example of some of the innovative stuff. So we had farmers come to us and say, Ken, whenever I get a hailstorm, I've got these salesmen selling me these rescue products, and I don't know if it works. So there's a Florence Nightingale effect. You have a hail event, and you want to do something to help it back because you invested in a lot of that. So we developed a hail simulator, and that's the machine on the tractor there. It's basically like a minesweeper, and it turns out we did a pretty good job at simulating hail, and we had the folks from AFSC come out and confirm that it looks good. So for 3 years we studied damaging the crops at different levels and then spraying these rescue products. Long and short of it is, most people are wasting money on these rescue products. So this is an example of where we didn't really find a great result, but to know that, how to deal with that and not to throw more money away chasing a lost opportunity. Recently, we actually just shipped that machine out to University of Saskatoon, and now they're going to continue on some research there. One of the more exciting ones that I'm interested in recently has been adapting these planters. As we worked in corn, we've got a great canola seed industry. The whole entire canola seed industry has moved to planters for seed production for a lot of reasons. And we thought, well, if that's the case, then why can't we modify this to do other small grains? So we did a study on canola, and we took the monosem planter and narrowed it up to a 12-inch row spacing. And we're finding that you can actually boost yields. A lot of folks have gone to planters to try to save seed costs. We're finding that there's an opportunity to increase yields as high as 15% higher yields we found using the monosem planter on a 12-inch row spacing. So fortunately, we'll be able to continue on some of that work, and we're going to look into opportunities with wheat and pulses as well. This is just an aerial shot of all the different treatments. So you can see with an air drill on the left, when you go to really low seed rates, you've got very poor patch and uneven crops, whereas with the planter, it's quite even distribution. So the two things I'm excited about with this is it's not necessary that we can cut back on seed, but we're creating a much more even crop. And as we have an even crop, we can do better agronomy. We can spray fungicides at the right time, and so on. So I think there's a lot of opportunity moving forward. We did dabble in some grazing, so this was using winter cereals, where we would, actually, the farmer out in Snap that we worked with would plant wheat, or winter wheat, or fall rye, and fall triticale, right after he silaged a crop. He'd let that grow, and you can see all the growth on the left side there. Then he would winter his cattle out there. So let them in October, and they would graze all winter long, and then start up in the spring. And then he would just put some fertilizer down and grow it as a second crop. So kind of a neat management technique that might actually work in this area. We worked on night spraying, so time of day spraying, and actually found that even though getting up early in the morning to beat the wind was what we were taught, that it was actually the wrong time to spray. So the early morning applications, we found we were reducing our herbicide efficacy by about 15%. And that's a neat little trick, because now we're dealing with things like glyphosate tolerant kochia. We actually have triple resistant kochia now in southern Alberta. So all these little management practices that we put together might actually be able to help us deal with the problem. This was a big demonstration that we put a couple of years back. You can see early in the morning there's a little more green. It gets better around 8 o'clock. We've controlled the weeds. And then by 8 o'clock at night, all of a sudden our control has gone down. So it's kind of like a bar chart in the field. And the same thing with Liberty. First thing in the morning wasn't the greatest, got better. By 2 p.m., our efficacy went down. So those are the types of agronomy type trials we like to work on. So briefly, Canadian Agricultural Partnership actually was a rock star for us this year. I'm still in awe and excited that the government put this program together. And I think this is another potential way that the counties might be able to play in this world is the funding through CAP has been great. So the 5 programs that we apply to, so for pest surveillance, for a lot of that risk mitigation piece, I think there's a lot of opportunities. We put in 12 applications, and so far we've been successful in getting 11 of them funded. So I don't know how this happened, but right place, right time, and we had a lot of good ideas ready to roll. So we're kind of set on the research for almost the next 4 years, and this is a situation I haven't been in my entire career. So we're pretty excited about this. I mentioned kochia. So one of the deals is we're going to be looking at a site-specific or a patch management approach to dealing with glyphosate-tolerant kochia. We're going to be working with pesticide rinsate biobed. So this isn't a new tech, but it's a really great public story that we're doing the best that we can in agriculture in general. So we're going to build our own biobed. We're going to build one on a trailer and have it so that all of the counties can borrow it and use it at their events, or even lend it out to farmers so they can kind of copy it and build their own. We're doing one on pollinator sanctuaries. We're doing moisture mapping in crop for variable rate. We're trying to address this neonic issue where we might lose that as a product in canola, and how do we deal with the flea beetle moving forward. We've got a large program on the planter, so we will be looking at canola, peas, lentils, chickpeas, faba beans, and all the different crops out there to see if we can adapt that row crop planter approach to our scale of agriculture. We're working with the Lethbridge College on trying to innovate how we get information out there. So we're using some neat stuff like virtual reality and 360-degree cameras and all of the new tech that's out and available. We're going to try to bring that into agriculture, so that's going to be fun. This is a crazy one. This is actually through my carting with Alberta Ag. So clubroot's a big issue in a lot of other parts of the province. It's starting to creep its way down here. He actually thinks they can train a dog to sniff out clubroot. So they've contracted some folks out in New Brunswick, and this project has started. They think they can do it. So the dogs, they can smell pretty strange things. And to walk through a canola field isn't all that much fun either. So a dog might be able to go out there and then identify where the patches are so you can have early detection and then hopefully keep the problem from spreading into southern Alberta. We do have a new project in hemp. This is sort of the next phase of hemp agronomy, and we'd like to look into the CBD and fiber opportunities as well. So there's different agronomy for grain versus fiber. And the CPD piece is going to be more about when you harvest that plant, and the concentrations change throughout the growing season. A few more that we have that might be interesting to work, again, in this county is early detection of diseases using a low-cost spore trap in combination with weather stations. So this is about predictive tracking of spores, and then trying to identify when the high-risk areas are so that folks can get out and spray before the problem takes off. We do open farm days, so we call it Healthy Farms, Farm Smart. This is our way of reaching out to the city folks and invite them to our research center and build that sort of social license. And it's been pretty fun. We've done it 3 years now, and each year we're getting more and more people. We had, what was it, 350 people last year that just wanted to learn about agriculture. I think the county folks, were you guys there?
We set up,
Yeah, Dwayne was there. And biostimulants is the last one, so. Sorry, I've kind of bombarded you guys with a lot of information. When it comes to advocacy, that CAP program, the way it was developed had a lot to do with the advocacy efforts that we put in at a provincial level. And I know that like the ag service boards and such, is dealing with the provincial government is always a time-consuming venture and sometimes frustrating, but I'd like to be able to continue to do a better job with that, for providing a voice for what we do in agriculture. I think this is a growing problem for ag in general. So we've started a new provincial advocacy group that we're calling Farm Right. And right now it's just 6 founding members. It's Farming Smarter along with some other groups across the province. And I feel that it's worth investing. And I think the CAP program was a result of a lot of our collective effort on that front. So we might be able to see ways that we can build that voice for agriculture moving forward. So our events this year, June 6th, June 27th in Cyprus, June 11th here is our field school, the 25th, and then our open farm days is the 17th of August, and then our conference is the 11th and 12th of December. So we certainly have appreciated the support that you guys have provided to us for sponsoring these events. I won't talk about this anymore, but this is sort of the clubs that we're launching this year. So we're gonna have a digital club that's a $250 a year subscription, so that's access to all of the online information. And we split the agronomy club and a farmer club, so it's a yearly thing where we're kind of bundling all of our services together. And then there's an event pass, so you can buy, get a discount on all of the events. So thank you very much. I'd love to answer any questions or talk about how you guys would like to partner with us moving forward.
Thank you.
If you do, maybe you want me to leave.
Farming just changes so much every few years. It must be hard to come up with research projects to stay current, or even to stay ahead of things.
Yeah, and it's hard to stay relevant, and it's hard to prioritize. We've had lots of great ideas over the years, but where we've been really challenged is how do you get the money for it? So you can have all these ideas, but unless we align our priorities with the provincial needs, like even the commissions are great supporters of what we do, but they have to help the entire province. And so it's about making it that regional focus that I think that's the strength of what we do. And it's also where we're lacking any real infrastructure or funding structure to support it. So the nice thing about our survey was that the farmers said they're willing to support it. So one of the questions was, to do a yearly donation towards a specific project. So we hope that maybe posting 5 good ideas on the site, and people can pick and choose what ideas they'd like to see supported, and actually then I can leverage it. So the idea part is actually not as hard as you think. It's the funding part that's hard. Yeah, there's so many ideas. We just can't do them all.
Any questions for Ken? Go ahead, Claude.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What did you do for funding before the CAP funding came out? Because it seems like you get quite a bit of funding from that right now.
CAP was huge for this year. So I'd like to throw that at 10% of government funding. Now this year we haven't actually added it up yet, but all of a sudden in 1 year it's probably going to go up to about 40%. But we're project based, so it was really about chasing grants and writing proposals. So there's something called the Alberta Funding Consortium. And so the commissions are part of that, as well as Alberta Innovates, Alberta Government, the Western Grains Research Foundation. So we've been successful in leading some projects through proposals, but also partnering with other people on their proposals. So like if Saskatchewan phoned us up and said, hey, we'd like to work on this Western Canadian cluster, you can be a site, then we'll get some money to do that site. So 80 to 90% project-based funding. The money that we generate through our events is only 5% registration. So it's really low, but that's something we're gonna try to grow through these new bundles. And try to, for me, it's the stable part that I need to grow, something that I can depend on, and then continue to act like an engineering firm and just be project-based. So producers were the biggest funder, but it's just all over the place, multiple sources. Not the greatest answer, but.
Good.
And then also the, well, you got the research station here, and I'm sure you guys don't know a lot what you're doing. And so, but how much do you work together with the research station?
Yeah, we work with those that are sort of working on farmer relevant stuff, and there's a group of about 9 researchers there that we work with quite a bit. So there's Hector Carcamo, who's an entomologist, Brian Barris is in agronomy, there's Haley Catton, who's also an entomologist, there's some pathologists that we work with, and we certainly, I think, build a stage for them in getting their information out to farmers as well. So that's part of our collaboration. We can work together on research, but we can also help them get the word out. And Ag Canada doesn't actually support that at all financially, which is a problem. And they used to depend heavily on Alberta Agriculture to be their extension arm. But Alberta Ag is out of the extension game now too. So Ag Canada is an important partner, but that's part of my discussions moving forward is there's tremendous value. Like, why do all this research if nobody knows about it? So, you know, we're gonna keep working on that angle and see where we can go. Part of maybe that farmland piece. Yeah.
Any more questions again? Well, thank you for coming. That was very, very informative.
Thank you for having us.
What you do a little more, so.
Yeah. Might as well bombard you once a year.
Yeah. Thank you, Shelley, too, for joining us.
Sounds great.
Thank you.
Take care. Thanks, Gary.
Thank you so much. Nice to meet you. Everybody ready? Everybody has their phone.
Yep. Yeah, sounds great.
Okay.
Thanks for lining it up.
Keep it a couple of
Ken,
guys.
Ken, before you leave, I do have one question.
Okay.
You talked about a partnership. What kind of a partnerships would you be looking for? Or what are you looking for, I guess?
I didn't come to the meeting with a specific idea. I think that what I learned in working with others is how is it gonna help agriculture? So depending on what your guys' objectives are, let's see where some of the alignments are and work together. It could be on events, it could be on building support. I think advocacy, honestly, would be a great one to work together. If we can build a stronger collective voice in general to the provincial government, federal government to support agriculture in a meaningful way, that's probably my best first step. We're also looking for land. So there's resources. I've been talking with actually Hillary on some pieces of land. We're gonna try to work with the college and secure at least some infrastructure for us to continue doing what we do. But we need to communicate more. We should talk more. Yeah. That's about it.
Fair enough, thank you.
Yeah. Thanks.
Thank
I have
you.
my phone number.
Yes.
Call anytime.
Will do.
Yeah.
We're just looking for a motion for to accept Ken Cole's report for information from Farming Smart. Oh, absolutely. If no questions, call for questions, those in favor? Carried. And moving down to pages 24 to 31, policy 628, club route inspection and control. Gary?
All right, moving on to page 24. What we have here is we've developed a new club route policy. There used to be 2 parts, made it into one. Me and Derek are gonna tag team on this one, and Derek is training to be a certified ag fieldman. He had to do a assignment on club route, and he got 100%, so, I mean, I don't think I would've got 100%, so we got the expert here with us today, so. I'll explain a little bit of the background. Of course, canola is a very important part of agriculture here in Lethbridge County. If we were to ever get club root, it would have a very large impact, especially with the seed canola as well. Very big industry in Lethbridge County. So over the winter, me and Derek went up to a meeting put on by the Canola Council. It was in Indus. And the reason for the meeting, they have club root in, as of last year, in Rocky Ute County. So Indus is in Rocky Ute County. There were 200 people there. Most of them were farmers. The others were about 20 people like that were ag fieldmen learning about it. And they're really concerned with the spread of club root. So we decided to go back home and take a look at our policy. We went through this policy with Mike Harding. Me and Derek had a couple meetings just to make sure we're going down the right road. And I think we are. There's been a lot of all you do is see club root in the newspapers, in the ag publications. It's a very hot topic. So we revised it, and Derek will go through it, and you can see what you think. Feel free to ask questions for the reasons why we made this the way it is. Basically, the old policy was great. It had 2 parts, was well thought out. The former ag field did an excellent job, but it's moved on. Like, there was one whole policy on inspection, and it went through that. I don't think we need that as part anymore, and the reason being, we'll follow a certain inspection protocol and just put it in there. Everybody knows that we're doing the right thing when we're entering fields. So with that said, we'll hand it over to Derek, and he can explain the new policy.
So Lethbridge County recognizes that club root of canola is a serious pest problem and supports the principle to control the spread of club root. Under the Pest Act, it is the responsibility and the responsibility of the local authority to prevent, the control, and destroy the pest inside the municipality. The policy establishes the guideline for inspection and the control of club root. Yearly inspections for club root will be completed by the Ag Service Board. For club root surveying, we will follow sampling techniques provided by the Alberta Club Root Management Committee. We'll just do whatever they give us the surveying stuff. So we're just gonna do what they do with all their stuff instead of doing our own thing. Positive identification of club root. If club root, they do test positive for club root, it has to be tested between 2 separate laboratories. They say if it's tested with one, it might show up positive, but if a different lab tests it, it might not. So it needs to be positive on 2 laboratories.
So just a note on that one, there's been positive club root results, and they've never found them again. In any laboratory that went into the field, they could not find them. And we had a suspect case here probably 10 years ago, and it was false positive. So those do happen. That's why we put in 2 separate laboratories. So we don't want to put somebody through all the pressure and scrutiny for something that wasn't real in the first place.
So just on that, we're gonna submit to a second laboratory if we find a positive, or we're sending out 2 samples every time.
So what would happen is if we're seeing something that looks like club root galls, and we're pulling that, we would send out to 2 laboratories right off the bat.
Okay, so you're only sending samples out if you suspect it.
That's right.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
We're not doing random testing for club root.
Okay.
And then where club root is confirmed, a notice of the pest will be given to the landowner that is infested with the club root. The growing of canola, mustard, and brassica crops shall be prohibited for a 4-year period. So can't see any of that for 4 years. After the 4 years, if the farmer would like to proceed to seed canola, he has to seed a club root resistant and notify the ASB before seeding. So we can go through it and work with them to figure out what works best. The owner over disturbing soil, for lots of farmers, they must follow the best pest management guidelines by the Alberta Ag to reduce the spread of the disease. All users of the said fields must adhere to the same best management practices for club root sanitation, cleaning off all their equipment and stuff like that. Prohibited crops grown within the 4-year period will be destroyed using appropriate means. Once the notice is handed out, all neighbors and industries that have commercial interest or any other interest in that field shall be notified that club root is in the area. Once again, the 1 in 4 rotation, growers shall follow to prevent club root. We're trying to get everybody now to do like a 1 in 3, 1 in 4 to help prevent it if we can, but we know not everybody follows that. And even once you have club root with the 1 in 4, you're not gonna, it'll never get rid of the club root, but it will reduce the activity of it and hopefully lower the levels. And if we ever do get club root in the county, within a year, we will review our policy and figure out where we need to go from there.
So in other counties, there's a lot of work being done on rotation, on what will get rid of the spore counts where it doesn't affect the canola crop. So some of the current information is they're saying that if you monitor your spores, you can, even in a place where you have a lot of club root, you can maybe grow 1 in 3. That material was shared and put out into the media, and some of the Ag Service boards have taken offense to that. They want the 1 in 4 to remain, because it's a safety feature, right? In case we ever have club root here. And we have a lot of other crop rotations that we could do here in Lethbridge County. We're better off than a lot of other places where they have to grow canola to make a living. I mean, we understand why they're doing it, but here, we will, if we did find club root, we would give a notice. That's what's different with this policy as well. We need to protect other farmers. And my thought is that just because we give them a notice, we're gonna work with that farmer. It's not gonna be a heavy-handed thing. Maybe they don't know, we're gonna help them. So, and the reason we want to review this policy within 1 year, because maybe that information changes and maybe a 1 in 3 is good if we know the spore counts. But we do wanna be consistent and keep pushing the 1 in 4 rotation if we just think that's a good idea. Mike Harding, he went through this, and they had some ideas and stuff that we didn't put in. One of the things kicking around is seed potatoes. They're concerned a little bit with seed potatoes coming from central Alberta and then being planted, maybe more so in Lethbridge County. We decided not to put that in, and what we're gonna do is just promote, make sure your rotations, maybe that's not a good rotation, be careful when you're growing potatoes and then canola, right? Be aware, check your fields closely so that we can get a handle on this if it does come here. So.
Same as the seed potato thing, there's lots of these feedlot guys and cattle guys now are getting canola straw from all over they're using. So that is also a bit of a concern, but we don't know yet, so that's why it was another thing we didn't put in there.
Go ahead, Klaus.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. But if you don't, you said you don't want to get heavy-handed on the thing, but I mean, if people don't abide by it and cause club root, isn't it better to have a heavy hand on the whole thing and prevent this kind of thing?
Absolutely, but what my thought is if we find club root in a field through however the farmer reports it, we feel, we're gonna give a notice, but I really think farmers in Lethbridge County are gonna wanna do the right thing anyways. If we do come across one that doesn't want to, that's when the heavy-handed approach has to take part, and we're more than willing to do that. We don't want to, of course, but we will. And that's when we need the backing of the Ag Service Board, because things get pretty intense then.
If that's
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I'm just wondering, you've gone fairly far on one side, the enforcement of it, if you find it. But on the other side, like the potato industry and the sugar beet industry, it is a 1 in 4 year rotation. So why wouldn't we go the other approach and say, go to the canola companies and say, look, this is going to be our policy moving forward, and we don't want contracts given for the same land locations every other year. Because in northern Alberta, that seems to be where the problem started from, was growing canola back to back to back to back to back. And we have plenty, as you said, we have plenty of other rotation crops we can use, so it should be at a minimum of 1 in 3, but better to be 1 in 4.
Yeah. You make a very good point. I just think that would turn into something legally that we'd be unable to deal with.
Yeah,
Enforcing a 1 in 4 rotation, and then how do you monitor it?
I'm not suggesting that
Okay.
we necessarily would do it, but I think that's something that provincially needs to be looked at. Because, I mean, the potato growers and the sugar beet guys, that's part of their contract.
Mhm.
You can't grow it on the same land in shorter than 4 year cycles. So I'm just suggesting maybe to look at this a little broader and maybe go province-wide and think this is how it should be done.
Yeah, I can have those conversations both with Mike Harding and the Canola Council. They're contacting us all the time. The difference being is that, you know, with canola, there's lots of canola companies. With sugar beets, you're dealing with one contract, right?
Did you have a comment, Dwayne?
Mr. Chairman, the seed growers, canola seed growers in this county here, their best practice is a 1 in 4 year rotation, so they do practice that. The seed growers do, right? So it's, you know, that's the one thing they're doing. 99.9% of them are using a 4 year rotation for seed canola, so you guys can decide whether it should be 4 or not.
Yeah, just some information that you may find interesting. So we were provided with some maps, satellite maps by the province, and what they showed is the ability to pick up where canola has been grown on too tight a rotation. So we have a map. You can't tell which fields they are, but you can tell which areas they are. So in Lethbridge County, this is a province-wide map. Lethbridge County is sitting very, very good on rotations, especially in irrigated areas. Where we're seeing some color on the map where they're too tight is in dryland areas. And with the recent things that are happening with canola, and last few years haven't been good canola production on dryland, so we're gonna see less canola production. That's almost a forced rotating of rotations, right, because of just the economics. So we're really, compared to the rest of the province, you go up into central Alberta and you go up into the north, west, the map is red with way too tight rotations.
On the fourth point from the bottom, prohibited crops grown within a 4 year period will be destroyed using appropriate means. Is that if they've had a notice and they're growing it without?
That's right, that's
notifying you guys? And
if a notice is given, there will be no crops grown yet. And we'll do spray or disc monitor, would have to investigate what the best thing to do is if the time ever came.
Just that most of the things been said, but I was gonna ask earlier, but I guess my hand was too small. It was too fast. But anyways, the responsibility is very much down there with the grower, Mr. Chairman, you know, like, and they realize that, and I think that's what we really shine here in the south, on that end of it down there, and, enforcement, I think, you know, if you listen to, you know, the canola council down there, you know, like, they're probably only gonna be a little ways away from somewhere down the line, they probably gonna ask for that enforcement down there, because it is, the north starts to realize now, you know, that they're gonna have to go more into rotation, and I know we talked to some of the farmers from up north, and they started to do that now. But something is being done within the industry, so that's good.
Is there any further discussion? Does anybody have any other points or any issues with this policy, how it's written? All right. right, so the recommendation here is that the Ag Service Board approves the consolidation and amendment to the previous policy 628 club route survey protocol and 628 to control the spread of club route, and approve the new combined policy 628 club route inspection and control.
Okay, thank you, Bob. Just a question on the old policy, it kind of said how you inspect. So there's certain procedures you would have to follow for guidelines somewhere.
Yeah, so the best management practices, they put out, last year, that was their survey we did, so they put out the inspection protocol that covers exactly everything in this, so. I mean, I was thinking we could link it up to that, but we'll just, when we go contact farmers, the first thing we let them know is that we're not gonna contaminate your field, we're not going field to field without cleaning our equipment, we're never parking on, we don't even wanna park in the approach. A lot of times it's on the road, and then we're walking in with the booties, and then the sanitation of any knives or stuff that we use for cutting is cleaned extensively. And often, it's not an efficient way of doing things, but we don't like doing too many surveys on one day, just because you're entering too many fields. So, okay, let's do 10 days in a row at different days, and just keep doing the club route inspection, right? And then when we're doing the club route, we're also doing the black leg survey of the 10 fields. And club route's easy, because you pull out you look for club route in the approach area, and then if you find something looks like gulls, you do a more extensive pattern. We haven't found any, so we don't ever have to go to the larger pattern, but we're also doing the black leg, and then the black leg is a more extensive survey where you've got to do the big W pattern and full survey, so.
Yeah, I think we also simplified it just by saying that the club route survey method, this is bullet 2 under field surveys, that we're just gonna follow the protocol.
Okay.
That way, if they change the protocol, we don't have to come to you guys and revise the policy, so. It just, we're gonna follow what the standard is.
Any more questions or comments? If not, then the motion was to approve policy 628. Call for the question. Those in favor? Approved. And pages 32 to 34, policy 630, parks and trails inspection.
Okay, we haven't had a parks and trail inspection policy, and last fall, the folks came in and did a presentation for the link pathway, the possibility of having that. The insurance guy was here, so I was here, took that in, I called the insurance guy when we made a policy. This policy is gonna be for the trails we currently have. If the link pathway ever came in, we would need a more extensive policy on how we inspect that, because I believe that trail would be heavily used, and so we'd have to have a larger protection of the public. So prior to going through this policy, I want to give you guys a little presentation on the parks in Lethbridge County, where we're at with them, and then also the non-county owned parks and how that affects how we put equipment and things like that in. So I mean, Larry's group deals with the grant, so I just want to show you guys so we have some clarity there. Just. All right, like I say, explained it there, so let's move right into it. This is the Shaughnessy County owned park. Got a camp kitchen, we've got some bathrooms, there's some play equipment there. On the right corner of the camp kitchen, you can see there's some exercise equipment there. So all this equipment in this park is pretty new. There's also a tennis court. The tennis court is mainly used for basketball, or even better, in the winter time, they have flooded make hockey ice. The county gave them a grant to make the rink, the border that goes around. They have excellent ice. So this park is all new equipment. Things are pretty good there. This is right across the road. This is the old school run by Palliser, turned over to the Community Code Association. This is all this equipment here. It's all good, fun equipment. It's getting old. This is not, we don't have anything to do with this. We do mow this property. for the community association. It's just something we do as part of our budget. So there's lots of play equipment in Shaughnessy, we're pretty good there. Now, this is the locations. You can see on the left side, that's the old Palliser School. I didn't show all the equipment, that backwards L or J, whatever, that's where all the equipment is. They have a lot of equipment in Shaughnessy. Right across the road, that's our facility there, so. Moving on, Turn. They only have a county-owned playground. So the community association has put stuff in the left up, and it's all fairly new. They also have a little half basketball court, you can see there, swing equipment. This stuff is in very good shape, will last a lot more years. And of course, we put in the backstop. This was in consultation with the community association, so this is what they wanted. That shows where it is. We know that right of way that goes around that park, you could possibly hit a baseball. We knew that putting it in. The old one was worse. It was on the right of way and you hit towards the play equipment. So this is an improvement. I mean, if there were any development there, we may have to do something. This baseball diamond was intended for use by children, not adult. We never intended to have a big baseball tournament. They could. How many feet it is to hit it to left field? I mean, I think it's just under 200 feet. It's still a considerable length into the field. So very good in Turn. Diamond City. This is the county-owned property. They only have county-owned property as well. So the stuff there on the right, that's new equipment the community association put in about 10, 11 years ago. The rest of their park with the equipment is stuff that is getting too old to be in a park. So you can see the stuff in the middle. I'll show a little bit closer picture in the next one. It came out already, and we're going to be putting some new stuff in. They've also got a tennis court there with some basketball stuff. And this is right attached to their community hall, which the county has control over. Those two pieces of equipment in the middle there, they're gone. We pulled them out last fall. They'd reached their life cycle and they weren't dangerous, but they were done, absolutely done. We did have a little pushback from the community. They really liked the one on the left. It's actually a helicopter. And a lot of people grew up with this. One of the guys that works for me, he played on that equipment. He's 30-some years old. And that equipment there on the left, it's 40 years old. They've got some swings. They're also very old. They're gonna have to be replaced at some point, but our project this year, this is for June, this is what's going in with that abandoned equipment where we pulled it out. So we worked with the community association, we've had some evening meetings, and they've just been a pleasure to work with. We're giving the community what they want, they're deciding. So through the Ag Service Board budget last year, $60,000 was awarded to this project. We've made this project through grants and working with the clay company. It's over $100,000 project. The $60,000, it was $62,000 for this equipment sitting right there. The other $40,000 is going towards the border and pea gravel. It's incredibly expensive to do the rest of it, and they're getting a deal on everything. The pea gravel, we're doing this very economically. So we're very pleased to work with the community association because we're giving them what they want, not what I'm forcing them on them, right? It would have been very simple for me to just take the $60,000 and put up some equipment. Easy, right? But this is theirs, they take ownership and they keep care of it and they care. So it's awesome, we have a great community association there.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So Gary, you're talking about the pea gravel. You ever use that rubber crumble stuff? Isn't it softer than pea gravel?
We had we were putting up a swing yesterday in Fairview, and there was some conversation that Derek had, and I think any of the rubber stuff gets incredibly hot in the summer. So, and then also the problem is when you have a site that has pea gravel on it already, and then you put either a rubber crumble or what they got now is a flat rubber, like it's like the rubber matting that you put in your horse trailer or something like that. And that stuff gets really hot, but also the pea gravel migrates from where you have it there onto that stuff, and then the kids are sliding around, and it creates a safety hazard. So we're good with the pea gravel. We do like that. And that product, those products with the rubber, even with a provincial grant, are equal to or more than pea gravels. We haven't had any problem with pea gravel. It's low maintenance. It tightens up on the bottom, so you gotta go in there and work it. Over years, the old equipment, it's going from 8 inches to compaction to maybe 4, we've gotta loosen it up. The current standard is you need 1 foot pea gravel. Most of our equipment doesn't have that because the standard was different. It's not a liability issue, it's just when we put new stuff in, or we correct stuff, we have to go to the new standard. So we'll carry on and all that stuff in Diamond City. That pea gravel is being removed, and we've got to bring in new stuff that's not contaminated, and it's got the 1 foot. Moving on, this is Fairview. They've got a nice piece of equipment. This is a small park, like a pocket park is what they kind of call these things. That's a nice structure up front. There was right where that picnic table sit, there was an old teeter-totter. We removed one of those from Diamond City as well. They became worn out and too dangerous. I mean, legally you can still have it there, but where the bar goes up and down was so wore that kids could get part of their finger in there, and we just didn't want that liability anymore. So we took it out and we put the picnic table there. The picnic table's getting used every day. Their mail is picked up right by that community board there. So we've never had so much action in that park. There's not a lot of kids here. So that at the back you can see that swing. These old swings are 40, 50 years old. This one here in particular was the main priority for me to remove. It's along the fence line. When I first started with the county, that house wasn't there. There was no fence. So it's too close. I mean, you could parachute. I sat on the swing and pretended I was gonna jump off, and it's too close. And kids are a lot more agile than I am. So you can see there's the fence line, right? That one was pulled out here this week, and it was replaced with the one on the right. And there's a picture yesterday, not as clear. That's what's going in. So we're working with a play company on that one. There's no community involvement. I went door to door trying to find somebody that would help me out and maybe wanted to enhance this project. There's not a lot of kids in town, so they were happy with this being put in. And it's a small park with limited use, but they're good for many years to come. So, and we have a guy working on that today, finishing off the pea gravel, and you can see that wasn't just a photo up there. That's actually how they're moving the gravel around a little bit. This is new to us, so I'm sure there's better ways, but we'll find them as we go.
They do have those shovels and things so that you can go through gates.
Yes, yeah.
Would probably hold more than what that guy's got on there.
This is part of our exercise program as well.
That's a good one.
Yeah. Keeps our guys in shape. So the reason we're doing this, we wanted to find out whether with our involvement we could do it cheaper, or it was cheaper just to have the play company put it in. When the final numbers are added up, I'll find that out. I at least wanted to know how these parks were put together, how much cement, and the whole process of doing it, so that we know that we were getting value for our money. And so basically keeping everybody honest, and we had an interest to see how things work. So there's the location of the Fairview Park. You go to the Tim Hortons and you just go directly over by the exhibition, and you go directly to the east, come to the first corner. It's basically sitting on a big lot, right? So not a large deal there, but not a big community either. Mountain Meadow Trail System, this is another thing the county owns and we take care of. So there's 2 miles of trails out at Mountain Meadows. And there is some maintenance efforts here as well. This is one of our larger maintenance where we have to put some funding. The weeds grow and 2 miles of that right away where we have to mow. Although it is dry land and it's just coulee grass, it does take some maintenance. Last year when we had the flood in the spring, we had a section of this trail wash. We had to go in there and fix it. Shale is incredibly expensive. We used, we put a base of gravel underneath and we had shale to the top. It's not the first time this has happened. We had a larger portion wash away probably 15 years ago, and it's actually gravel. That's what the county repaired it with, because it doesn't move as well. And this is in good shape, like, there's probably 5 inches of shale there, but to replace this park, you're looking at liability in $250,000 plus. It's very, very expensive. So in Shaughnessy as well, there's some shale pathways that go on the edges of the Shaughnessy Park. When Shaughnessy does their improvements, the idea there is to put in sidewalk. It's cheaper in the long run. And a lot of that shale over the 50 years or 60 years of the Shaughnessy Park is blown away, washed away. There's different qualities of shale. All you can basically get now is baseball shale that's finer. So, you know, in the old days when you slid and you got a big raspberry from that kind of shale, that's not available anymore. It's a powdery shale, so it deteriorates quicker. This stuff here, the shale on these pathways is the good stuff. And it's impossible to find shale anywhere, and if you do, you're paying a lot for it. So we're looking at other alternatives. If we ever had to do something here, you're looking at limestone or different things.
On that Shaughnessy project, the price was very similar going asphalt to shale.
Wow.
So,
It used to be the cheap thing for me.
Yeah.
Shit.
yeah, cause we just can't find, the material had to come from southern Saskatchewan somewhere, and the trucking is just tremendous.
Yeah, my understanding is the only shale left in Lethbridge is that stuff by the golf course there. If you go through, you look up, you'll see the shale there, but I don't think they're into selling that right now. So this shows the trails. That's the 2 miles of trail. And the reason it washes, the top right-hand portion there where there's a little bend right there, that goes into coulees. All this stuff is on the edge of coulees, right? So when it rains hard and rain events, we can lose some. So Mountain Meadows, they don't have a playground. It's quite a large community. They just have this trail system. Sunset Acres. So there's been some expansion in that community. And the park stuff here is it's okay. The stuff at the front there that was put into by these grants over the years, it's good for the size of community they have. That swing in the back is a priority for me to replace. That's a homemade design. We checked that thing very closely when we were doing our inspections because we were looking for cracks at the top. There's a saddle, it's very well built, but it's not your Blue Imp stuff where it's got the connectors on the corners. So, you know, that one's coming out. We're hoping next year that we're gonna use part of our budget money to replace that one. And to replace a swing like that, you're looking at, it's gonna be $25,000. So, it's incredible. And then, so they have a basketball court here. And the basketball court is got cracks in it. And so we need to seal it up somehow. The weeds grow through, and the weeds that come out and they grow flat. That whole basketball court was covered in weeds. There are people in the community of Sunset Acres that don't want spraying, and we respect that. So we tried vinegar, a mixture of industrial vinegar that you're allowed to use as a herbicide. It didn't work. So we had guys go in there last fall and we removed it. We pulled it out, and it was a horrible job. Derek might know about that.
Not fun.
Yeah, so in the future, we're hoping maybe we can spend some money on resealing that. And the backboards are good. The actual backboards are not good, but the stands, they're all fine. So this one needs some work. With the community growing, there's a possibility we can get somebody involved from the community in that new subdivision that may have kids that might want to help us out. For the most part, it's been an older community with not a lot of kids. But I was doing an inspection last year, and there must have been somebody that had a day home, and there was a lot of kids, and they were taking turns trying to get on that old swing. And so it is getting some use, and the deer love this park. There's an incredible amount of deer. So that shows the park and its location in Sunset Acres. The panhandle there, that is a shale path right here. So it's grown in by trees. We trim it so that you can ride a bike down. So, you know, that's part of the inspection policy we'll get to. But Sunset Acres, we could use a little bit of work on that part. Monarch, this is my biggest concern on what to do. I'm really unsure. So we have a county-owned park, and that's the tennis court there. We've got a couple of these swings, one for kids, and this one's for larger kids, one for the little kids, and then there's a monkey bar there and a baseball diamond. And right behind that tennis court, that's the new school there. So they also have their own equipment. So how much equipment do you need, or do we need to consolidate, or what needs to be done in Monarch? I went out and found the community association president here last week, and I just engaged him on what do you guys want to see. I mean, I don't want to put equipment in this park if that's not the right place, and the only people that can decide that, I think, are the people that live in the community. So this is the school. You can see they've got the little piece on the right. That's their playground equipment. They use the county site for their field events, track and field. They use it for playing soccer. So nothing wrong with that. They're using the park, right? They're using the baseball diamond. So all the equipment that you've seen in that previous slide, it's done. It needs to be replaced. We just need to find a plan. And my plan is to do a couple of those old swings and then come back, and we need to find a project for Monarch in the next couple of years, whether that be through our department or through the grant that Larry's department gives out. On the left there, that's the community hall. That's their equipment there. That wouldn't be a lot of money into that equipment. And the county behind that, you can see the water tower, right? So the county owns a portion of that property. The community association actually goes quite a ways towards that property. So we have 3 different parks, all within a block. And the equipment, in my mind, is not optimal in any one place. So you can see on the bottom left, that's the school ground. The top, that's our park. You can see a very well worn baseball diamond. The area from the tennis court to over here, that's where they have soccer nets. And these little pods here, that's where we got a swing and a monkey bar for them. And then down here, that's the community association. That's their equipment there. There's the water tower and the county-owned property there as well. So I want to see what he comes back with on then what I can engage either Larry's department or bring something to county council through our budget as well. So we'd like to see a lot better equipment for the people in Monarch in a couple of years. And they can also access a grant, and we're trying to get this process started now and then thinking about it so that they can get a good grant. I mean, the company we're working with the play equipment, they're the sole provider of the Blue Imp equipment. So that's the standard of equipment. All the stuff we're pulling out is Blue Imp equipment, and they're actually located in Lethbridge County.
What is the life expectancy of the new equipment that they put in? Do they guarantee anything, or?
I haven't seen through the pamphlets, or I can ask about that. I have concerns with how long the plastic slides and things like that will last. I am told I won't have to worry about it. So they're looking at.
Is that some smart advice?
I don't know. He said 25 years is, and just some of it's an interesting thing, because why do you put in the plastic slides then? Well, they don't get hot. I mean, you put that stainless steel slide in and you face it towards the sun. Kids aren't using that when it's 30 degrees outside. They're going to get burned. So something is on the radar for Monarch.
Okay. When we had open house there, I was talking to a gentleman that you shared I think they were lilacs or whatever.
Yes.
To put on the thing. He wanted to thank you very much for that. So.
Yeah, we do have some awesome community participation. So we had a group of the retired guys. We've tried growing trees in our dryland parks. Our budget would be well over double if we had to go water. We just can't do it. So we planted lilacs along there, and we give them a water card, and they go down with their water tank, small tank at a time, and they water these. And they do an incredible job of keeping these things alive that we just wouldn't have the time. And the price of the water, when they're moving it that way, is not a lot. So we've done that in a number of communities. Iron Springs as well, the picture here. Behind that swing, we have a whole nother row, and the farmers agreed to water with his irrigation water. This is an easy one. So we like to work with these guys, and they've done a really good job in Monarch. They put trees all over that community, and we used to provide them with any excess trees we had from the Shelter Belt program, and that's where those trees come from. And then they've got some over on Railway Avenue as well. They got a good thing going over there with lots of community involvement, so. We'd like them, once again, get something where they decide where they want it and what they want. But this has to be a larger project, probably larger scale than Diamond City, just because of the need. Moving on, Iron Springs, this is the county-owned property. So this was put in last year, and you can see the weeds and stuff, that's just because the grass hasn't really established. That swing and that one in Sunset Acres are my largest concern. What happens is, with lots of use over the years, the bearing hangers at the top get worn, and it becomes, there's nothing that's gonna hurt anybody right now, but we don't want it to get there. So we've replaced the bearing hangers on lots of these swings, but they still gotta go. You don't see these blue colored swings anywhere anymore. It's all the stainless steel or new, fresh. We gotta move there, we really do, because another 20 years of this, where will we be? Even further behind, right? So Iron Springs has this nice little thing here, like the little play deal here. This is for small children, and there's a reason it's for small children, is because Iron Springs is a school where they're building a new facility across the highway, where they have a lovely park. That's it there. Lots of people won't let the kids cross that highway to play over here. And also when school's on, the smaller children have nowhere to play. There's lots of kids in the Iron Springs and Turn communities. So what I've seen is when we go to inspect that park, there's people driving in from out of town, the farm kids, and they got their little kids, and they're using that park, which before, when there was not good equipment, there was no activity there at all. So. And that's the locations of the park. Of course, Highway 25 there on the north side right here, that's the school. Apparently the new school's going right here. And then the play equipment will be behind, and this will be removed. So. And then right here, that's the county-owned park. You'll notice there's a right-of-way there. This pad here is for an old skating rink that they used to have there. Iron Springs is so sandy, it's very difficult to hold ice in there for skating. So it has to be lined, which nobody really has done in the past few years. So you see this line right here. We own part of this field. That's part of the lease agreement with the farmer there, because it used to be a big field that we never used for nothing anyways. It's where the old Iron Springs years and years ago, where their water system was. So their dugouts and stuff like that. So Iron Springs is good for years to come as well, and they'll probably get some new play equipment with their school there being new. Another area that we take care of is Broxbourne Pond. This is an irrigated area. This is our only other irrigated area besides the school that we maintain, just the grounds, and our park in Shaughnessy. This one's irrigated as well. Lots of trees. Trees take maintenance, and we haven't done a lot with these trees. We've pruned them and stuff. We're starting to see a loss of some trees, so there's lots of trees in here. And this takes a very big maintenance effort. So around this trail and through this bridge here, there's a trail system around the lake rather. So that's the aerial view of it, and this is all the trail through the bridge. So that trail is a type of limestone. It's black, I believe it's limestone. It's not the best quality. It wasn't put in there nearly as good as the stuff out there in Mountain Meadows. This trail is narrowing, and I mean, there's no use. There's nobody walking out there. The guys from the Flamin, they'll come over and they'll use the park and picnic area to have. It's nice, it's beautiful lunch area, and it's very well maintained. So moving on, cemeteries, those are also maintained by us. These are the 4 that we do direct maintenance mowing. So Barron's, Albion Ridge, that's White Lake, and Eleanor. We don't own these, we just keep care of them. Whoever owns them is in limbo. So things were getting pretty sad with the fences. We've gone into all these and put in new barbed wire fences in the front of these cemeteries. Looks very nice on how we enter them and stuff. And some of these signs didn't get put up until after we made the fence nice again. So with those, we mowed them twice, once in July and once near the end of August before the kids go back. These are really, really dry land cemeteries. Not a lot of growth, but one of our biggest things is we do gopher control here. And we can't use strychnine, we gotta use other products. So we do spend some time, it doesn't look good to have gophers on cemetery property. So what is a priority for replacement in our county-owned parks? This is our parks. So equipment that has lived out its life cycle. That's the swings. Or equipment that does not conform to current Canadian Playground Association standards. Both the boxes are ticked on Diamond City. That stuff needed to come out. So next up, the plan is to do the 2 swings, Sunset and Iron Springs, because they really need to be done. Then possibly the following year, a project in Monarch, circle around and then either enhance. There's still some swings that are gonna need to be done, fixed up, replaced in Diamond City as well. We're replacing all the bearing hangers at the tops of those swings this year. It will be safe for years to come. We just need to freshen this up. And after that, it'll be into playground enhancements. As communities grow, or stuff wears out its life cycle, we'll be replacing that stuff. So we do have a plan. Derek and I, we took a playground inspection course after Terry retired. He was our expert, and Terry knew a lot, and we're starting to understand that now even more. So he was a certified inspector. Me and Derek took a 1-day course, and it covers everything you need to know. I think we need to do more. So me and Derek don't have time to inspect these. You have to do it right, take your time and inspect everything. So we have a young kid, hopefully we're gonna get signed up for the course, and he's gonna be a certified inspector, and that's a thing that needs renewal every 3 years. It's also part of when someone's telling you what needs to be replaced because it's dangerous, then we have the know-how to say yes, it does or it does not. We do, and we've used some consultants in the past, but the consultants are also the guys that sell it. So that, you know, we have a responsibility there. So that is our plan. Does anybody have any questions?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Who determines what type of equipment should be at the playground Gary?
So what we're doing is we're consulting with community associations. We think that they're the people that should decide on what playground equipment they want in their park. In the case of Fairview, I couldn't really find anybody, and we weren't putting anything big, we were just replacing the swing, so that's what we did. With Diamond City, that went to the community association who worked with the provider. They did up all those sketches, and they decided exactly what they wanted with the budget they had.
You know, just a comment, you know, like, for the population we have in our county, we take care of a lot of playgrounds and parks actually, you know, for the county. And I don't know, would be nice if we could put a lot of emphasis on that, so the ratepayers in our county would know that what we really have it for parks and playgrounds and also the cemeteries, and it's quite a bit.
Yeah, through some of the newsletters we are. I mean, we've been promoting the new swing and things through social media, Maddie, and I think people are recognizing it, recognize what we're doing, and I'm not getting any phone calls from the people out there asking for anything. They like what's going on. Like they know the plan. We're consulting with the community associations, and then they're talking amongst themselves, and the word gets spread out through the whole community and the county, right? We've met a lot of good people through the community associations that want to do good things.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Like Fairview, you couldn't find a community association or anybody else that was willing to cooperate, or there was nothing in place there.
I couldn't find any. I went door to door. I went, you know, where you could tell probably kids lived with play equipment in the yard or whatever. I couldn't find anybody that wanted to get involved. The people that were involved with the park that's there, that newer play structure, their kids have grown up. So.
Okay, but my question actually is that, is it still being used then by kids?
It's likely used. I mean, when we were putting it up yesterday, Derek made a comment that the neighbor would come over and you get to know the neighbors of the park and stuff, and they thought it was great that it was going in because their grandkids, when they come, we're going to enjoy it. And I think that's what's happening. And communities turn over. I mean, there'll be young kids in there one day. We need to have these parks for them when they show up.
Go ahead, Bob.
Thanks, Steve. Now, McNally, do they have a or playground or anything, but
McNally, their community associations, we haven't engaged them, or that they haven't put, they probably come through another grants and other ways for their facility maybe. But they're another one, I mean, we don't mow that property, or take care of it, we used to, when I first started, when it got turned over from Palliser, and there was some playground equipment there. I don't know how much use or what's going on there, that's one I haven't engaged a whole lot.
then they're ready-made?
Yeah, there's.
Then Sunnyside, I guess
Yeah.
that's.
So the difference with these is that these are not county-owned properties.
Okay.
So they'd have to come through Larry's grant and try to get equipment, where I'm trying to get
Okay.
placement of equipment. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, if that's good, we'll move on to the playground and trails inspection policy. That'll be on page 33. So we never had a policy, we had to make one for insurance reasons, and I'll go through it. So the policy statement is that all future playground equipment purchased conforms to current Canadian Safety Association standards, and future trail systems will be designed in a way to minimize health and safety risks to users. The procedure, this will provides guidelines on the inspection and maintenance of playground apparatus and trail systems in Lethbridge County. The responsibility of the supervisor of ag services, myself, will ensure that all play spaces are inspected every 2 months. So we inspect monthly, or even a couple times a month when when the ice is out there. But you don't want to put in a standard that you can't always reach. So that's our safety net, is the 2 months. And Rick has had some input on that. You want to meet what you're putting in here, and the insurance guy, that's what he told me, don't put something in there that you can't meet. We can meet the 2 months, we can do a lot better, but it's 2 months. And trail systems, just twice a year. We have low-risk trails, not a lot of risk there. So the monthly inspection, qualified designated staff will carry out all inspections and repairs. Playground inspectors should be the playground repair person. Repairs or modifications performed by other staff are to be inspected prior to use. Carrying on, number 2, all inspections shall be recorded on the appropriate forms, which includes conditions of the playground apparatus and associated amenities, any hazardous or potentially hazardous conditions, corrective action taken, the date, and signature of the inspector, and then they're reported to me where I sign them, review them, and make sure everything was done and all the follow-up necessary. If necessary, repairs to playground apparatus at the time of inspection, the playground inspector shall immediately make the apparatus safe by erecting a safety fence and or caution tape around damaged equipment. You don't get a lot of damaged equipment, but we're checking it very, very, very closely, and we repair things right away and make sure nobody can play on the stuff if it's damaged. So, as well as to notify the parks maintenance supervisor, ensure the proper follow-up measures are taken. So, going on to semi-annual trails inspection, the trail inspections in Lethbridge County will be looked at semi-annually and completed by a qualified designated staff member. We're just not having parks kids going out there and doing this. So, all inspectors shall be recorded on the appropriate forms, and this is just the same process as we use for the parks, same filing system. Then we've added the supplemental portion. This is where the kids that go, young people that mow our parks, where they become involved. They inspect when they go out and mow. So they're looking for things in a visual inspection, note any deficiencies as well. They'll remove any glass or things like that. And if there is anything that is a deficiency and they correct it, they put it just in a log book, not any official, and they let us know when they correct it. So that is the Trails and Parks policy. Does anybody have any questions on that one?
You said you got legal input on the policy as well?
Yeah, so after that meeting that was held in the fall, I worked with the guy from the insurance. He provided me with a 100-page document on trail systems, on what you look for. They're not trail systems like ours. These are trail systems in like Towns of Banff and things like that, where they're very extensive. So basically he told me, you're covered for liability regardless, but you gotta do certain things to help yourself out, right, too? And that's what we're doing here. A very basic policy, because we have very basic equipment and trails. So if the link pathway comes through, this policy's coming back and it'd be more extensive.
Or it may have its own.
Or it may have its own.
Any questions, Gary, at all?
Make the motion, we accept, section 600, number 630, and page 1 and 2, playground and trails inspection.
Okay, thank you, Ken. So the motion then would be to approve the Parks and Trails inspection policy. You guys, is that right, Donna? Okay. More questions? Call for the question, those in favor? Okay, approved. And, F3, pages 35, 36, the weed inspector appointment.
All right, final one of the day, weed inspector appointment. So to properly administer the Weed Control Act, we have to have a sufficient number of inspectors. And with recent staff turnover, we're low on those numbers. Terry was the inspector. So, in the past, we've had up to 4 inspectors. And what the weed inspector does is they go systematically throughout the county and our hamlets. All properties are covered, and they deal with the 91 things Kevin dealt with. You're encouraging people to do something with their weeds. So we're getting short of inspectors, and to keep up, we need to appoint another one. So this one here, we have an employee that's done an incredible job with the landowners along the river bottom. Throughout the years, he's also been trained with farmers. So I have trust in him that he can do a proper job. And the big thing here is when you're gonna give a notice or when you're dealing with somebody, I don't need my phone ringing saying, there's a problem with this guy. We haven't had that problem. And so we would like to make Aaron Bradley, who's worked with us the past few years, a weed inspector. We're gonna be still low on numbers. We're anticipating another retirement. Currently Kevin is a weed inspector. I don't know how much longer he plans on going. I'm a weed inspector. It just, by all ag fieldmen are weed inspectors. So the plan there, we're gonna catch up with this fella. And then when Derek takes his certified ag training, we're gonna make him an inspector under all the policies, and that's gonna be likely in the fall. Because you do need inspectors in the winter time as well. And what you do there is we're going to the seed plants, and we're taking the samples, and we're going through them for weed content. So you need to be a trained weed inspector to go through and sign off on that. So Derek will be covering up on that, and as well as soil erosion in the winter. To give a notice, you have to be appointed inspector. He'll be a incumbent inspector. So the recommendation is here that we do make Aaron Bradley be appointed a weed inspector for Lethbridge County. Any questions on this one?
You don't need a motion on that, do you?
I'll move that we appoint Aaron Bradley as weed inspector for the county.
So with these have to be forwarded from the Ag Service Board to County Council. It's just the way the government needs things done, so.
Okay, thank you, Klaus. Any questions? Okay, motion on the floor would be to recommend to council that Aaron Bradley be appointed weed inspector for Lethbridge County. Call for the question, those in favor? Opposed? Carried. And down to F4, the County of Lethbridge seed cleaning plant update. It's been a year or two since we've done this, so Morris Dees was on the committee.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm gonna keep it as short as, very short, matter of fact, because, fall duty. Yeah. So just, bear with me for a minute,
You get started the quicker.
He has it written.
Okay, a little brief, it's gonna be very small, report on the seed cleaning plan, but anyways, the year end June 30, that is, the 30, that's the year end of the seed cleaning plant, and, total cleaned bushels for up to the date is 474,000. And total bushel cleaned last year was 546, so they got a little ways to go yet, and, they had a slow start in February, or slow going in February because of the cold weather, and they hope to make up on a little bit on the bushel end of it. And the total loan of the outstanding for when you did the upgrades on there, which you know it was a call sorter and a whole bunch of other things, and some bins and a scale or whatever it is, it's at 543,000. The plant ran out of loss in the last 2 years because of some unforeseen mechanical problems they had, which they had to get on to get it repaired, and so they had some losses. But this year they hope to come above a little bit, and they got about $480,000 in the kitty yet. So they're sitting pretty good. They had a small loss for 2 years, but this year they hope to make a little bit of money. The other one is, that's the one on the seed cleaning plan. So I think they're sitting pretty good. I would like to touch on, we got the Aggie Days here in Lespitz, and I volunteered yesterday, and I'm supposed to be there here right about now too again to volunteer, and I'm there on behalf of the Alberta Sugar Beet Growers Association, the dairy people there over there too. There's quite a few of them down there. I'm just wondering if, would it be a good idea to have the county to have a small group down there? I don't need to be very much, because we're so much involved with agriculture, you know, and I'm not sure if that would be effective because it is a lot of little kids, you know, but I'm not sure. But I just thought I brought it up, and it's unbelievable the kids will walk through down there. And I'll tell you, I'm glad that I never pursued being a teacher. You gotta have a lot of patience. But it's good, yeah. And that's my report, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Morris. Any questions of Morris? Dwayne?
Who would we talk to, Morris, in regards to setting something up there, do you know?
Yeah, that's a good question.
I'd be happy to set something up, no problem.
It's, they've been doing it for several years now, you know, and yeah, I'm not sure who the contact person, but the exhibition ground, they probably can give you the info.
Okay, good enough.
Yeah.
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, it is through the exhibition office.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that's something to look for moving forward anyway. If no questions, then a motion for information on Councilor Lee's report.
I'll move that, so.
Thank you, Morris. Call for the question, those in favor? Carried. And adjournment? Thanks, Wes.